Manga has been dominating American comics for a while now, but now we have one of the big wigs at one of the big two commenting on that fact, which is Jim Lee, the president at DC Comics. He was co-publisher, now he's president of DC Comics, and he had a quote today in an article talking about manga and comic books and how manga is so much more successful. First, I want to apologize in advance for if I sound weird. I'm currently sick, so I'm very stopped up. So sorry if I sound nasally. But anyways, let's get into this quote. Jim Lee said, "The stories told in Japanese manga and anime are incredibly powerful. I often find myself wondering what is missing in Western comics and why aren't they able to achieve the same flavor? Also, I think manga has an advantage over American comics, which are mostly about superheroes, and that's where the majority of sales and readers are concentrated. In Japan, it's closer to literature and anyone can read it, and it's not just hero stories. There's a much wider range of genres like stories about cooking and soccer. You can draw stories from that. I'm very happy that the manga has been so successful because it gives me a goal to aim for. The manga market is bigger than our industry, so the question becomes, what can we learn from this?" Lee says that it's not just art style, but the sensibility of Japanese comics, and later adds, "Another thing to add is that in the West, comics and animation have been considered children's media. As people grow up, they move on to live action. But in Japan, that's not the case. Not only is there a wide range of genres, but adults also read manga and watch anime. As a culture, it's an art that isn't limited to a specific age group." Now, there's two reasons, in my opinion, why manga is beating up on American comics. And the first is anime. Because if you think about it, the big reason why a lot of people get into manga is because of anime. And what's anime? For the most part, it's pretty much a one-to-one adaptation of an already existing manga. So you have people that are watching like season 3 of some anime, they finish it, they're like, man, when does season 4 come out? They look, it's in production, it's going to be a year or two or however long till it comes out, but they got that itch, they want to see what happens next. So they look, they see the manga is way ahead of where the anime is currently at. So they go, they read the manga, they're like, this is sick, they love it, and then that gets them into reading manga as a whole, and they get into other manga, and that happens for a lot of people. That is a very real experience for a lot of people. Comics don't have that. There's no, hey, I'm watching this right now. Well, as far as the big two go, because the one comic that does have that right now is Invincible. Invincible, that has happened with the Amazon Prime show, the animated show Invincible. Now, Invincible isn't a one-to-one adaptation. It's done quite a few changes, and it's not incredibly faithful, but it's close enough. And so a lot of people watch the show and then they'll want to go and check out the comic, and it's been huge because the comic was already popular, but it's gone to another level with the show. But DC and Marvel haven't done that because every DC and Marvel adaptation is completely different from the comic, because everyone who gets their hands on a DC or Marvel property to adapt is like, now's my time to do my version of it. Now's my time to see my vision fulfilled. I don't want to do an adaptation of an existing comic. I'm going to do my original spin on it. So you don't get any of that because too many people want to do their own thing, which is quite annoying and doesn't help sell comics. And Marvel and DC have not been so good at synergizing the two, especially if you look at Marvel. If you look at the MCU, when you had Prime Cap, and he was at Civil War, which was the most popular Captain America movie, that was the one that sold the most tickets, and people are loving Steve Rogers. And you look at the comics, and you're like, okay, let me go read a Steve Rogers comic. Oh, he's really old, and Captain America is actually Falcon now. Sam Wilson's Cap. Oh, okay. Or, for instance, like I had a friend who had no interest in comics at all, but he loved the Spider-Verse movies, and he loved Miles Morales, so he checked out Volume 1 of the trade paperback of Bendis' run and read it and was like, this Miles sucks and is nothing like the movie, and the writing is really bad. So you're not converting anyone there. Compared to, say, if they did like an animated series of Frank Miller's Daredevil or Chris Claremont's X-Men, or you could do a Triangle Era Superman show or Superman Rebirth or something. Like, you would have so many episodes you could do that are already written if you just adapted them, and then you could be like, hey, you like this? Go check out the comic. You know, if you don't want to wait for season 2, go check out the comic. It's already out there. Like, you could do this, but they won't do that. And part of it is because of a reason Jim Lee mentioned, which is that we have the stigma here of cartoons are a thing for kids. They're seen as a family thing. They're not seen as like, oh, you can do a more adult or you can do a more mature thing. Because for the most part, the mature stuff is like Family Guy, is South Park. It's like our mature cartoons are just edgy cartoons or just comedies. We don't really do a whole lot of these more mature cartoons that handle other themes other than just being wildly edgy, which is unfortunate because you could do some really cool stuff like Invincible is doing right now. Invincible isn't a kid's show; it's adapting the comic. You could do that for Marvel and DC if one of them would take a leap. But Western animation is also really in the dumps right now for the most part. A lot of Western animation is not very good, and it's sad because superhero animation has fallen off so much. Now, the other reason, in my opinion, that manga is beating American comics is price point. Because if you want to read current comics, on average, it's about $5 a comic for 24 pages. It's $4 or $5 for 24 pages, generally, on average. That's not a good price point, and that's once a month, assuming there's not delays. That's not great, especially because a lot of people want to binge. A lot of people want to get it all at once, and this isn't very good compared to manga. With a lot of them, you can just go and you can get like a fat story that you can read for much cheaper. Now, something that DC's done, which is very smart, is the compact line, and this has been selling extremely well, where they did sort of more of a manga style where it's a small book, it's $10, and it's all just a complete story. You get the whole story. You get like Long Halloween or New Frontier. You get some of DC's greatest stories, and you get it for $10, all of them. No matter how short or long it is, it's $10, and that is great, and I think very smart. And it's been paying off. As soon as they do an absolute Batman compact comic, that thing's going to sell insane. Absolute Batman's already selling insanely well, but once that happens, it's going to be bonkers. Now, Marvel completely effed it up. They did their own version where it's a little bigger than DC's compact comic, and it's also $5 more. It's $15. So they completely missed the mark of, hey, why does this work? Oh, because it's small and it's cheap. Marvel's like, what if we made it bigger and more expensive? So stupid. It's so dumb. It's not selling near as well as DC's compact line because Marvel is very stupid. So those to me are the two main reasons that manga's beating American comics, is because of anime and because of price point. Now, there are also a bunch of other variety of factors as well, but I think those are the two main ones. Now, a big complaint from manga enjoyers is that Western comics is way too complex and hard to figure out compared to manga. With manga, you start with book one and you go from there, and it's easy. With American comics, it's like, oh, which series do I start with? Which issue do I start with? It's been rebooted so many times. What continuity are we in? Blah, blah, blah. And to those people with that complaint, I say, stop being a pussy. You are one Google search away from figuring out where to start reading what character you're interested in. It is so easy. You just do a Google search, go on YouTube. There's so many different lists and videos and everything out there to figure out. It's so easy. Or you don't have to do any of that. You can just jump in the deep end. That's what I did when I was a young lad. I just jumped in the deep end. I read whatever looked cool to me. That cover looked cool. I'm checking it out. Oh, we're in part 4 of this story. I didn't read the first 3 parts. I have no idea what's going on. I don't care. I'm just reading it. You figure out what you like, and that can be fun. But I can understand that can be daunting to some people. But if you are one of those people that's very OCD and it's like, I have to start from the beginning, I have to start, then just Google it. It's so easy. We live in an era of technology. It's very easy. It's not near as complicated as people make it out to be. I see that complaint so much, and it drives me up a wall because it's so easy. It's not hard at all to figure out where to start reading comics. It's incredibly easy. Just gotta know what character you're interested in, and you just search up, hey, where's a good place to start? And there'll be a million lists. Will be, hey, start here. There you go. Easy, done. So that complaint, I feel like, is kind of a non-starter, and I feel like is built up bigger than it should be, in my opinion. Now, as far as what Jim Lee said about manga being able to cover all sorts of topics, and American comics are mainly superhero comics, yes, American comics are mainly superhero comics, but there are so many great non-superhero comics coming out right now. I think there are 3 guys that are really killing it right now with non-superhero comics. You got Jeff Johns with what he's doing with Ghost Machine. He's telling all different types of stories over there that aren't all superheroes. He's doing a lot of really cool stuff. You got Rick Remender with his imprint and image and what he's doing there, telling an epic story with Sacrificers, or his World War II story, Escape, with anthropomorphic animals, which is really cool. You got Ed Brubaker and everything he's done with Criminal and all he's done outside of it. What he's done with Sean Phillips is really cool, and doing all these different sort of more noir crime stories. And there's a lot of great non-superhero comics out there. They're not generally at the forefront. They're generally not as popular as Marvel and DC. That's what's the way the industry is, but there are so many great stories out there, and a lot of them are finished. There's a lot that you can read. Like, you can read all of Deadly Class. It's all done. There's not more Deadly Class. So if you have that complaint about comics never ending, you can do that. But as far as continuity being too much and comics never ending, I understand that. I see both sides of it. I understand that people want stories to end and everything, but I also think like, man, imagine if Batman would have ended a long time ago where we never got any other Robins. Imagine if it would have ended before Dick Grayson ever became Nightwing and we never got to see what happened with Dick. If it was just like, oh, he was Robin, and then all Batman stories ended, there never became any other Robins. We never got more in the Bat family. We never got to see Dick Grayson go to Bloodhaven, become Nightwing. We never got to see him be a part of the new Teen Titans. It's like, man, imagine that. Imagine what that would be. I think comics having such a rich history is pretty cool. Obviously, it gets convoluted. Obviously, there's a bunch of reboots, and there's so much going on there, so I get that. But I think it's kind of cool, and I think it's kind of unique, so I don't necessarily want everything to be like manga, where it's like every story has to end. I think it is kind of cool that there is this lineage across all these different characters, where it's like, oh, it went from this writer and this artist to this writer and this artist. I think that can be kind of cool and unique. I kind of like that. But I do understand it gets to a point. But something that I think could help with that is more original graphic novels. I think DC kind of had the right idea about a decade ago with Earth 1. I think if you do that, if you keep it about $15, $20 and you do these original graphic novels where you get a whole chunk of story at once and you keep it cheap and you get the right creative teams on there and you promote it right, I think those could sell really well and bring in new readers because you have these characters that people want. And imagine that. Imagine if they did some original graphic novels for Spider-Man. Imagine how well those would sell. You just have these out-of-continuity original graphic novels. I think that would be great, especially for a character like Spider-Man. I think that would sell extremely well instead of just strictly sticking to be like, we gotta do floppies. That's it. We do floppies and then we do the collected editions and that's all we do. It's like, just do some original graphic novels. I think that's something that is severely missing from the big two that they should do more of and capitalize on more. I think it would bring in a lot of new readers and a lot of people would very much enjoy it. But back to Jim Lee, he makes a few coherent points, like talking about how animation is treated differently and how manga is treated differently in Japan and the East, where they treat it more of like literature. So I get that. But other than that, what he's saying, it seems kind of like he's playing aloof, where he's like, man, I don't really understand why this is so much more popular than American comics. It's like, really, you don't? How do you not? Like, it's pretty blatant to see, like, the points I made. Like, you know, you have anime. That's a huge reason why it's so much more popular. Like, American comics don't have that. I don't know why he's not saying that. I imagine if he would have just been like, hey, maybe we should do something like that. Maybe we should have our own high-quality animation that's more of a one-to-one adaptation of comics and now get more people into comics. That could be cool. But yeah, that's basically all I had to say. I thought this was interesting, so I wanted to talk about it. But please let me know in the comments below, what are your thoughts on this, on what Jim Lee was talking about here. I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. And thank you so much for watching, and we'll see y'all later.
Hey, skinny boy, saucy boy, I be running to the bank. Yeah, you know I hit the gas in the whip full tank. Riding past the ocean while I'm listening to Frank.